Curse you, Matthias the warrior! Now you will feel my revenge! Now you will understand my pain!
Hail, fellow travelers, Tim from Secret Fire Books here with another Redwall review for you guys. This time I'm reviewing MATTIMEO, Book 3 in the Redwall series in publication order, and Book 10 in chronological order. This book is also a direct sequel to the original Redwall, and it is the longest book in the series. Most of these Redwall novels average at about 350 pages, whereas MATTIMEO clocks in at a hefty 432 pages. But despite my dislike for ballooning page counts, and a few other things, I actually really enjoyed my reread of MATTIMEO, but we'll get to that. First, let's talk about the story. It has been 2 years, or as the animals put it, 8 seasons since the War of the Late Rose and the defeat of Clooney the Scourge. Our hero, Matthias the Warrior, has settled down to a peaceful life at Redwall Abbey alongside his childhood sweetheart, Cornflower, and their young son, MATTIMEO, also known as Matty. But it seems our warriors' fighting days are far from over as disaster strikes one night during the Abbey's annual summer feast. A group of slave drivers led by the mysterious masked fox Slagar attacks the Abbey, spills innocent blood, and kidnaps several of the Woodlander children, including young Matty. Spurred on by a love for his son and desire for justice, Matthias once again takes up the Sword of Martin and with a group of his most trusted allies sets out on a quest to track down the slave drivers and rescue the children. Along the way, they're accompanied by a new cast of colorful characters, including an angry Papa Badger with a literal axe to grind, a family of eccentric hedgehogs, an army of riverboating shrews, and a young orphaned otter who's afraid of water for some reason. But the burning question on everyone's mind is, who is the mysterious Slagar the Cruel? Where does he take the poor creatures he kidnaps? And most concerning of all, why does he seem to have a personal vendetta against not just Matthias, but all of Redwall Abbey? After coming out of Mossflower, which I had a lot of problems with, it's kind of perfect that the third book in the series should kind of ease me back in with familiar surroundings. Once again, we're back at Redwall Abbey. We're surrounded by all of our favorite characters from the first book, those that survived the war, that is. And the first several chapters of this book are spent just catching up with everybody, seeing how they've been, how life has treated them since the events of the first book. We're introduced to the new generation of Redwall Abbey animals, including Matthias' son, Matty, who is kind of just a more rambunctious version of him when he was a kid. But it does a really good job of getting us back into the swing of things, and it's all pretty comfy, cozy, and kind of pleasant for the first several chapters. So when the disaster strikes, when these slavers attack the Abbey and kidnap the children, it works really, really well. It gets you really invested, and they also end up killing one of the Abbey dwellers, which is kind of harrowing, and it makes you really angry about what's happened, and you want to see these bad guys come to justice. So what follows is a really exciting quest where we have Matthias essentially putting together the Avengers, putting together a group of his most capable warriors to leave the Abbey and set off on this quest to rescue the kids. And that's the best part of the story. Getting to see some of our favorite characters from the first book all grown up, going out on this quest to get their kids back. Once again, Matthias is our main character, and even though I said in the first book that he's kind of just a generic young adult fantasy protagonist, I think he's much better of a protagonist in this book. He's a much stronger character. He's a lot more mature and serious in this one. He's learned from his mistakes. He doesn't make the same dumb mistakes that he did in the first book. And he has some real leadership qualities. He puts quite a bit of work in this book, and he leads this adventuring party very well. We have Jess Squirrel, who didn't get all that much of a lot of attention in the first book. She had her moments, but she definitely gets to be part of the main action in this book, which is fun. We also have Basil Staghair. He's back. He's always a fun character. And we're also reintroduced to Logalog and the Gowsome Shrews. I know I never really talked about the shrews in Redwall, even though they're kind of a big thing. So the Gowsome, the guerrilla union of shrews in Mossflower, are essentially this army of shrews, this wandering army of shrews in Mossflower Forest, and they kind of range along the forests. They mainly serve as ferrymen who ferry animals back and forth along the river in these log boats, but they're also there to kind of guard everything and make sure that the vermin of the forest are leaving the woodlanders alone, which is kind of cool. And their leader is called the Logalog. That's his title, and you will meet many, many different Logalogs over the course of the series. Some are better characters than others, but they're all named Logalog. I should also mention that Logalog and his shrews are kind of meant to serve a secondary purpose, not just in this book, but in the greater Redwall series. Jacques tends to introduce the shrews back into the story whenever he needs meat shields, essentially. The shrews in the world of Redwall are basically like the red shirts from Star Trek. They're the characters that you kill off so you don't have to kill off any of the main characters. Wherever our heroes go, there's always an army of shrews, hundreds and hundreds of these little shrews who will gladly sell their lives to protect our heroes. And they will, many, many times. In all of the big action sequences in this book, shrews are dying left and right. There are sentences talking about how they get shot down with arrows, or maimed, or disemboweled, or decapitated, or impaled. And it's kind of hilarious how every single battle scene just has tons and tons of shrews just getting torn apart by the bad guys in order to protect the heroes, to give them plot armor. And much like the red shirts from Star Trek, afterwards, we're never going to talk about these dead shrews. They don't get a name. They don't get any personality. They just die, so our heroes don't have to. And maybe at the end of the scene, we'll pour out a pint of October ale in their memory, but that's about it. And we're also introduced to new characters in this adventuring party. We have Orlando the Axe, the Badger. Having a Badger in the party is always a good idea. They're always the best fighters, and so it's good to have him along. Personality-wise, he's not too deep. He's kind of just this gruff old veteran type. He's searching for his daughter who was kidnapped by the slavers. But I like the camaraderie that he has with everybody. He and Matthias hit it off immediately, and they have this sort of warrior brotherhood going on. And their fight scenes are the best in the whole book, I will say. We also have Jabez Stump, who is this sort of backwater country bumpkin hedgehog. He has 11 children, and one of them was kidnapped by the slavers, so he's out for blood as well. And then there's the aforementioned Cheek, the orphaned otter, who, when we first meet him, I was a little iffy about that character. I found him kind of annoying, but I warmed up to him pretty quickly. He and Basil have this very wholesome friendship that I really appreciated. So yeah, you just have a really solid adventuring party in this book. And much like the first and second, the adventuring party is the best part of the book. I really enjoyed this quest and seeing their camaraderie and how they interact with each other and how they solve the different problems that get in their way. What's also great is the main villain, Slagar the Cruel, the fox. He is a pretty unique villain as far as Redwall villains go, and Brian Jacques tries something pretty interesting with him. I won't give away what it is. The thing is, if you've read the first Redwall, you know what he's all about. It's kind of telegraphed a mile away, but when it's eventually revealed who he is and what he's all about, it's pretty cool. I will say. At least he tried something different. But when we get all of his scenes, we also get to see what the slave group is up to. We get to see what Maddie and all the other kidnapped children are up to, how they're coping with their slavery. And it's still a kid's book, so there's nothing too brutal. But it's still pretty harrowing. They don't know where they're going. They just know that they're bound for doom and destruction. And so seeing how they cope with their situation and how they have to kind of mature and grow up overnight due to this experience is really interesting as well. Now, where I find this book a little lacking is with the B plot. Brian Jacques tends to split these novels up into an A plot and a B plot. The A plot, like I mentioned, is the quest. It's Matthias and his friends tracking down Slagar, trying to get their kids back. And that part is a lot of fun. The B plot, not so much. It's not nearly as insultingly bad as the B plot from Mossflower, but it's still pretty bad. It's mostly just monotonous and is really superfluous to the overall story. It really has no bearing on anything else that goes on in this book. Essentially, what we get is a reprisal, a sort of miniature reprisal of the events from the first book, except instead of a evil rat and his army of rodents laying siege to the abbey, we have an evil raven and his army of birds laying siege to the abbey. This big bad raven named General Ironbeak and his birds take up residence in the attic space of Redwall, and they murder all of the sparrows that were living in the attic. It's kind of glazed over, but they do. They just murder all the birds that were living up there. It's kind of brutal. But from that point on, they end up taking over the abbey systematically from the top down. And what we get is this kind of monotonous back and forth between the Redwall animals setting up their defenses, and then the birds attacking, and then the Redwall animals pulling off some kind of trap that was a part of their defenses, and then the birds getting foiled by that trap and having to start all over again. And like I said, it just gets monotonous. Our main character for this portion of the book is Matthias's wife, Cornflower, who unfortunately has about as much personality as a sheet of construction paper. And our villain, General Ironbeak, doesn't fare much better. He's a pretty blasé kind of villain as well. To me, it kind of feels like after he got Matthias and all the cool characters out of the Abbey on their quest, Brian Jacques realized, I don't have anything for all the other animals back at Redwall to do. So I guess I'll just think up this really superfluous plot that has nothing to do with the rest of the story and gets wrapped up completely before everything gets resolved at the end of the book. The best thing I can say about it is that my favorite character from the first Redwall, Constance the Badger, is one of the supporting characters in this part of the story, and I love her so much. She is so fed up with everything. She's a little older, a little more grizzled than she was in the first book, and she's just had enough. From her dialogue and interactions with the other characters, I just got the impression that she's like, I'm done. I'm sick and tired of all these sieges. We've already been through this once before. We're going to have to get it over with again. Come on, guys. Let's get up. Let's get this whole thing over with. Let's get these stupid birds out of our abbey. So at that point, Constance is kind of echoing my sentiments that I had with this part of the story. Also, I was really kind of disappointed with the ultimate fate of our main villain, Slagar the Cruel. I don't want to give too much away, but compared to the glorious death scenes that we got for the previous two villains from the previous two books, Slagar's eventual fate is kind of underwhelming, kind of anticlimactic, and it kind of just comes out of nowhere. I feel like Brian Jacques was finishing his story, he was tying up all these loose ends, and then he realized, oh wait, there's that fox in a checkered mask that I didn't do anything with. Yeah, I should fix that, shouldn't I? All that said, I really did enjoy my reread of MATTIMEO. This book definitely holds up to my memories of it from my childhood. I don't know if I like it more or less than Redwall. I definitely like it more than Mossflower. But so far, this reading challenge that I've set myself has been pretty good. There's still, 19 books to go, but I think I can do it. I'm pretty sure I can do it. The thing is, if this wasn't a direct sequel to Redwall, if you didn't have to read the first book in order to fully understand what's going on in this one, I would say this would make a very good entry point into the series for those who have never read Redwall before. But that's all just my opinion. Let me know in the comments, guys. Have you ever read MATTIMEO by Brian Jacques? What did you think of it? And regardless, I hope you'll join me next time when I review... Well, actually, I'm taking a break from Redwall reviews for a while, but when I do come back, I will be reviewing Mariel of Redwall. Until then, as always, farewell and keep reading.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who